Have you ever found yourself alone, sitting quietly, and felt an unsettling emptiness? Have you ever wondered why loneliness feels so heavy, even when the world outside is so vast? In today's fast-paced life, where everyone seems connected through endless notifications and messages, why is it that being alone can feel so isolating? Let me share a simple example. Imagine a lake. When it's calm, it reflects the beauty of the sky perfectly, but when it's disturbed, it becomes cloudy and chaotic. Similarly, being alone can either feel like a serene reflection of peace or a storm of unsettling thoughts. It all depends on how we approach it. Many people think being alone is a problem to solve, a gap to fill. But is it? Or could it be an opportunity, an open door to discovering something deeper about ourselves? What if solitude wasn't a punishment, but a gift waiting to be unwrapped? If you've ever questioned how to handle loneliness or how to turn those quiet moments into something meaningful, then this video is for you. Stay with us, because what we'll explore today might just change the way you see solitude forever. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, a place where timeless teachings meet modern challenges. If you've been searching for guidance to navigate life's difficult moments, you've come to the right channel. Before we dive deeper, we need your support. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of viewers subscribe. If you find value in what we share, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow and bring more meaningful content to you. In solitude, there's power. It is not an absence of people, but a presence of yourself. Buddhism teaches us that aloneness is not a void. It is a sacred space where the mind can rest, reflect, and grow. This doesn't mean you must renounce the world or withdraw from society. It means learning to find peace within, even when the world around you is silent. Our discomfort with being alone often comes from the noise in our minds. Thoughts race, fears surface, and the heart aches for connection. But what if we could turn those moments of discomfort into moments of clarity? Buddhism invites us to embrace solitude as a way to listen, not to the noise of the world, but to the whispers of our own soul. Solitude is where self-discovery begins. It's in the quiet moments that we can truly hear who we are. When you are alone, you're not lonely. You are free from distractions. This is where you begin to understand yourself, your desires, and your path. When you sit alone, instead of fighting the silence, breathe into it. Notice the rise and fall of your breath. This simple act of awareness brings you into the present moment. Buddhism calls this mindfulness, the practice of being fully here, fully alive in the now. In our next parts, we will explore how to use this aloneness to transform your life, to build inner peace, and to find strength you didn't know you had. For now, remember this: solitude isn't something to fear. It's something to cherish. It's the mirror in which your true self is reflected. So, are you ready to embrace this journey into yourself? Stay with us, and let's walk this path together. Understanding the nature of loneliness. In our busy lives, it's common to feel a sense of loneliness. This loneliness doesn't always mean you are physically alone. Sometimes, it's that feeling of emptiness, even in a crowded room. You can be surrounded by people and yet feel a distance from them, a disconnect. What is this feeling? Why does it arise? At first glance, loneliness may seem like a problem. We are taught to believe that being alone is undesirable. Society places so much emphasis on being surrounded by others, friends, family, work colleagues, that we forget what it means to be at peace with ourselves. But in the teachings of Buddhism, we learn that loneliness is not something to avoid. It is an opportunity for self-realization. It is an invitation to look inward. When we feel lonely, the mind often begins to search for something to fill that space. We may look for distractions, entertainment, work, or even other people, to escape the discomfort of being alone with ourselves. This is the root of the problem. We see loneliness as something negative, something to be avoided at all costs. But in reality, loneliness is simply a natural state, one that everyone experiences at some point in life. Buddhism teaches us that everything in life is temporary, including our feelings of loneliness. Just as the weather changes from sunny to cloudy, our emotions can shift as well. Loneliness is not a permanent state unless we choose to make it so. By understanding this, we can approach loneliness differently, not as something to fear, but as a passing cloud in the sky of our experience. Imagine you are standing by a river. The water flows steadily, passing through your hands as you try to hold it. You cannot hold onto the water. It slips away. Similarly, emotions like loneliness are fleeting. The more we try to grasp them, the stronger they seem to become. But if we allow them to flow through us, without attachment, they lose their grip on us. The first step in understanding loneliness is to realize that it is not an enemy. It is simply a feeling, one that arises when we are disconnected from ourselves or the world around us. The key is not to avoid it, but to observe it. When loneliness arises, take a moment to pause and breathe. Notice it without judgment. Don't try to escape it or fight it. Just be present with it. In Buddhism, this practice is called mindfulness, being fully aware of what is happening in the present moment. When we experience loneliness, we can practice mindfulness by focusing on our breath or the sensations in our body. Rather than letting the loneliness control us, we take control of our awareness. We choose to be present with our feelings, without letting them overwhelm us. It's important to remember that loneliness does not define us. It is a feeling, not our identity. Just as clouds pass across the sky, our emotions come and go. We are not our feelings. We are the space in which those feelings arise and fade. When we understand this, we can approach loneliness with more compassion and less fear. Loneliness can also be an opportunity for deep self-reflection. In the quiet moments when we are alone, we have the chance to reconnect with ourselves. We can ask ourselves questions like, who am I without the distractions of the world? Or, what do I truly need in this moment? These questions are not meant to be answered with words, but to guide us into a deeper understanding of ourselves. In our modern world, we are constantly bombarded with information, noise, and distractions. It is easy to forget who we are when we are constantly moving from one thing to the next. But when we take time to sit in silence, we allow ourselves the space to listen, to truly listen to what our heart and mind have to say. This is where the power of solitude lies. When we sit alone, without the noise of the world, we can begin to hear the whispers of our true nature. These whispers are often drowned out by the distractions of daily life, but in the stillness of solitude, they become clearer. The more we practice being present with ourselves, the more we begin to understand the deeper truths about who we are. This understanding does not come quickly. It takes time and patience to sit with our feelings of loneliness without rushing to fill the space. But as we continue to practice, we begin to realize that we are never truly alone. We are always connected to the present moment, to the world around us, and to our own inner wisdom. Loneliness, when understood in this way, becomes a teacher. It shows us that we do not need external validation or distractions to feel complete. We already have everything we need within us. The Buddha taught that true peace comes from within, not from external circumstances. When we can learn to be at peace with ourselves in solitude, we unlock the door to lasting happiness. One of the core principles of Buddhism is the concept of interdependence. This means that everything in the world is interconnected. Even when we are physically alone, we are not separate from the world around us. Our thoughts, actions, and feelings have an impact on others, just as theirs have an impact on us. In this way, loneliness is not an isolated experience. It is a part of the greater whole. When we feel lonely, it can be helpful to remember this interconnectedness. We are part of a vast web of life, and even though we may not always be in physical proximity to others, we are never truly separate from them. This understanding can help ease the feeling of isolation and bring us back to a sense of connection with the world. Buddhism teaches us to practice compassion, both for ourselves and for others. When we are alone, it is easy to fall into self-criticism or feelings of inadequacy. But this only deepens the sense of loneliness. Instead, we can use our time alone to practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend who is struggling. This simple act can transform loneliness into a space of healing. Another way to approach loneliness is to see it as an opportunity for spiritual growth. In Buddhism, the path to enlightenment is often described as a journey of self-discovery. It is a journey that requires us to face our inner challenges, including our fears and insecurities. Loneliness can bring these challenges to the surface, giving us the opportunity to work through them and grow stronger. The Buddha taught that suffering is a natural part of life, but that it is through facing our suffering that we can find true freedom. Loneliness is one form of suffering, but it is also a teacher. By learning to sit with our loneliness and embrace it, we begin to free ourselves from its hold. This doesn't mean that we should seek loneliness or isolate ourselves from others. The goal is not to avoid human connection, but to cultivate the ability to be at peace with ourselves in solitude. When we can do this, our relationships with others become more meaningful because we no longer rely on them for our sense of self-worth. We are already whole. As we continue to explore the nature of loneliness, we will learn more about how to turn this experience into a tool for personal growth and spiritual awakening. But for now, remember this: loneliness is not something to fear. It is a natural part of the human experience. By understanding its true nature, we can begin to embrace it as a path to inner peace. The art of mindful presence. In the quiet space of being alone, the mind often wanders, carrying us far from the present moment. It jumps from one thought to another, like a bird hopping from branch to branch. We search for something to hold on to, something to fill the emptiness we feel. But in reality, the emptiness is not something to fear. It is an invitation to simply be. Being alone is an opportunity to practice mindfulness, to be fully present in the moment. The mind, if left unchecked, will always rush ahead into the future or retreat into the past. It will remind you of things you must do, of things you've done, or even of things you might have done differently. But mindfulness is the art of quieting this mental chatter. It's the art of sitting with what is, without judgment or attachment. Think of it like this. Imagine you're standing by a river, watching the water flow. The water never stops, it moves forward constantly. But instead of trying to catch the water, you simply watch it. You don't try to stop it or direct it, you just observe. This is mindfulness, being present without trying to control or manipulate the moment. When we are alone, we can be the observer of our thoughts, like watching the water flow. When a thought arises, don't cling to it or push it away. Just notice it, acknowledge its presence, and then let it drift away like a leaf on the surface of the river. Thoughts come and go, like clouds in the sky, ever-changing. And in this space of mindfulness, we create a stillness inside of us. In Buddhism, this practice is known as vipassana, or insight meditation. It is the practice of seeing things as they truly are, without the distortions of our desires, fears, or attachments. When we sit quietly in solitude and observe our thoughts, we begin to understand them. We realize that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness that observes them. Mindfulness is not about controlling the mind. It's about understanding it. It's about creating a distance between who we are and the thoughts that arise. The more we practice, the clearer we see the impermanence of thoughts. They appear, they linger for a while, and then they disappear. The same is true for our emotions. We may feel sadness or joy, but these feelings, too, are fleeting. When you are alone, use that time to practice mindfulness. If your mind starts to race, simply notice it. If your thoughts begin to spiral, gently bring your focus back to your breath. The breath is a powerful anchor. It's always with you, always present. As you inhale, feel the air fill your lungs. As you exhale, feel the release. The breath teaches us that each moment is new. Each breath is a fresh start. You don't need to be in a quiet room or sit in a formal meditation posture to practice mindfulness. It can happen anywhere. Whether you're walking in nature, washing dishes, or sitting quietly in a room, mindfulness is simply the act of being present with whatever you're doing. It's about giving your full attention to the task at hand, without distraction, without judgment. This mindfulness practice can also help you become more compassionate with yourself. In the past, you may have criticized yourself when you felt alone. You may have believed there was something wrong with you for feeling this way. But in mindfulness, there is no need for self-criticism. There is no need for judgment. Simply notice how you feel, and let those feelings be. In the same way, you would treat a friend with kindness and understanding. Treat yourself the same way. Be gentle with yourself. It's in the silence of being alone that we begin to hear the deeper currents of our emotions. When we are constantly distracted by the noise of the outside world, we miss these currents. We don't hear our inner voice, and we don't understand our deeper needs. But when we sit in solitude, the noise fades, and we can hear clearly. Mindfulness is the doorway to this understanding. It allows us to tune in to what we truly need and what we truly feel. Often, we distract ourselves from our pain, our sadness, or our discomfort. We run away from these feelings, believing they are something to avoid. But mindfulness teaches us that it's okay to sit with discomfort. It's okay to feel sadness, fear, or loneliness. These emotions are just visitors passing through. They do not define who you are. By acknowledging them and sitting with them, we release their power over us. As you practice mindfulness, you may begin to notice a change in how you view solitude. What once felt uncomfortable or unnerving may now feel peaceful, even joyful. This shift happens because you are no longer afraid of your own company. You are no longer afraid of your own mind. Instead, you begin to appreciate the stillness, the clarity, and the deep connection to yourself that comes with it. The practice of mindfulness also helps us recognize the interconnectedness of all things. In solitude, we may feel separate, but in reality, we are connected to everything. The same breath that fills your lungs is the breath of the entire universe. The same earth that supports your body supports all beings. This recognition can bring a sense of peace and belonging even when you are alone. Mindfulness allows us to return to our true nature. It strips away the layers of distraction, the false identities, and the external expectations that we have placed on ourselves. When we sit quietly, we can connect to the essence of who we are, beyond the roles we play in society, beyond the labels we wear, beyond the opinions of others. In this space of presence, we find the freedom to be ourselves. We don't need to be anyone else. We don't need to prove anything. We can simply exist, fully and authentically, without fear or shame. And in this freedom, we discover peace. True peace comes not from the absence of noise, but from the ability to be at peace in the midst of it. If you are feeling alone, remember that this solitude is not a curse, it is a gift. It is the opportunity to connect to your own essence, to practice mindfulness, and to discover the profound peace that lies within you. When you embrace the art of mindfulness, you will find that you are never truly alone. You are always connected to yourself, to the world, and to the present moment. As you continue to practice mindfulness in your life, remember to be patient with yourself. This is not a practice that will bring immediate results. Like all things, it takes time and dedication. But with each breath, with each moment of awareness, you will grow closer to the peace that lies within you. And remember, just as the river flows steadily without rush, your practice of mindfulness will continue to flow, bringing you deeper into the present moment with each passing day. Detaching from external validation. In life, we often look for validation from others, hoping that their approval will give us a sense of worth. We seek praise, recognition, and affirmation from friends, family, colleagues, or even strangers. But what happens when this external validation is missing? Does it make us feel less valuable, less capable? In Buddhism, there is a simple yet profound teaching. The only validation you need is your own. This means that true peace comes from within. The more we depend on others for validation, the more we lose touch with our own true nature. We become like a tree, constantly searching for someone to tell us that we are standing tall, when, in fact, we are already rooted deep in the earth. Imagine this. A person wakes up in the morning and immediately checks their phone for messages, likes, and notifications. The need for approval begins the moment they open their eyes. They are hungry for praise, for a sense of belonging, and they cannot start their day without it. This person's self-worth is tethered to external sources, and their mood fluctuates with the responses they get from others. Now, let us imagine another person, someone who wakes up in the morning, not with the hunger for approval, but with a deep sense of inner peace. They are not disturbed by the opinions of others. They know their value, regardless of what is said or unsaid. They are content simply to be, to exist in the present moment without needing anyone else to tell them they are worthy. This is the path of detaching from external validation. It's a journey of recognizing that your worth does not lie in what others think of you, but in your own awareness, your own understanding of who you are. In the quiet moments of solitude, we begin to realize that we don't need anyone else's approval to feel complete. We are enough, just as we are. The Buddha spoke about the importance of self-reliance, of finding happiness within, rather than seeking it outside. He taught that attachment to the praise or criticism of others only leads to suffering. When we seek approval from others, we often shape ourselves to fit what they expect, not what we truly are. We hide our true essence in an attempt to please the world. But as we practice mindfulness, we learn to detach from these false expectations and return to our authentic self. Let's pause and think about this for a moment. How often do you change your behavior based on what others expect of you? How many times have you held back your true feelings, thoughts, or actions to fit into someone else's vision of who you should be? In each of these moments, you are giving away your power. You are handing over the reins of your life to someone else. But this is not the way to true freedom. True freedom comes from being unapologetically yourself, regardless of how others see you. In Buddhism, we are taught to cultivate equanimity, a calmness of mind that does not fluctuate with praise or criticism. When we are not attached to external validation, we find a sense of inner peace that no one can take away. We stop measuring our value by how others treat us and begin to measure it by how we treat ourselves. Think of the lotus flower. It grows in muddy water, untouched by the muck around it. No matter how dirty the water is, the lotus remains clean and beautiful. This is a beautiful metaphor for our lives. We may face challenges, criticism, or difficult situations, but we can choose to remain untouched by them, grounded in our own sense of self-worth. Detaching from external validation does not mean rejecting love or relationships. It simply means that our sense of self-worth is no longer dependent on others. We can love and care for others without needing them to love us back in a specific way. We can offer kindness without expecting anything in return. We can be of service to others, not for recognition, but because it is the right thing to do. True happiness is born when we stop waiting for others to tell us that we are enough. We realize that we are worthy of love and respect because we are alive, because we are human, and because we are connected to the vast universe in ways that transcend the opinions of others. Buddhism teaches us to practice self-compassion and mindfulness. When we turn inward and practice self-love, we no longer need to seek approval from the outside world. We become our own source of validation. Imagine standing before a mirror. You look into your own eyes and say, "I am enough." No need for anyone else to agree. You simply know it to be true. This is not arrogance, but self-awareness. It is the recognition that your worth is not determined by external factors, but by the deep, unshakable knowing of who you truly are. When we detach from the need for external validation, we become free from the opinions and judgments of others. We stop measuring ourselves by the standards set by society, and we begin to live according to our own values, our own truth. This is where true peace resides. It's important to note that detaching from external validation is not an overnight process. It requires consistent practice and patience. Each time you catch yourself seeking approval from others, gently remind yourself that you are enough, just as you are. Slowly, over time, this practice will transform your mind. As you detach from external validation, you will notice a shift in your relationships as well. When you no longer need the approval of others, your relationships become more genuine. You can love others without needing them to love you in return. You can be kind without expecting recognition. You can simply be present with others, without the need to prove your worth. In Buddhism, this is called letting go of attachment. When we let go of the need for approval, we are free to live authentically. We stop holding on to the need for others' opinions, and in doing so, we free ourselves to be who we truly are. As you continue on your journey, remember that detaching from external validation does not mean that you become cold or indifferent to others. It simply means that you stop letting their opinions define you. You start living for yourself, not for others. This is the path of true inner peace. So, the next time you find yourself seeking approval, take a deep breath and remind yourself, "I am enough." This simple thought has the power to change everything. By embracing your true self, without needing anyone else's approval, you will experience a freedom like no other. This is the path to liberation. Liberation from the shackles of external judgment and liberation into the beautiful truth of your own worth. Transforming solitude into self-discovery. In the stillness of being alone, many people search for a reason to fill the void they feel. But I say, there is no void. It is a space for something much more meaningful. When you are alone, you are not incomplete. You are whole, but perhaps you just haven't realized it yet. The journey of self-discovery begins when you stop seeking validation from others and start looking within. The noise of the world often drowns out the voice of our inner truth, but in solitude, that voice can be heard clearly. Think of it like a clear stream. When it's undisturbed, its waters are calm, and everything beneath the surface can be seen clearly. In the same way, when you are alone, the distractions fade, and you can truly see yourself, your desires, your fears, your dreams. Let go of the idea that solitude means loneliness. It doesn't. Loneliness is an illusion created by the mind. Solitude is an invitation to explore the depths of your own being. There is no need to rush into the next activity, the next connection, or the next distraction. The true gift of being alone is the space it provides to simply be with yourself. In these moments of quiet, when you feel the urge to fill the silence with thoughts or worries, try instead to just sit with the stillness. Let it be. Feel the present moment. Notice your breath. This simple practice of being with yourself, without any agenda or expectation, is where transformation begins. You may begin to notice that in the silence, you are no longer lost in the stories of your mind. These stories, about who you are, what you should be doing, or where you should be in life, fade into the background. In their place, there is simply awareness. Awareness of the present moment, of yourself, and of the world around you. This is where true self-discovery happens. It happens in the quiet, in the spaces where there is no rush, no pressure to be anything but what you are right now. Without the need for external validation, you begin to realize that you are enough. You always have been. Your worth doesn't depend on the opinions of others. It resides within you, in the truth of your own existence. The mind may tell you that you need to do something, go somewhere, or be with someone in order to feel fulfilled. But in solitude, you discover that fulfillment doesn't come from doing. It comes from being. The more you practice being present, being still, being with yourself, the more you come to understand the peace that resides within. One of the most powerful things you can do in solitude is to observe your thoughts without judgment. Just watch them come and go, like clouds passing through the sky. They are not who you are. You are the observer, the one who watches. When you stop identifying with your thoughts, they lose their power over you. This is the freedom that solitude offers. As you continue to sit in silence, you may begin to notice things about yourself that you didn't know before. Perhaps there are desires, dreams, or passions that have been buried under the noise of daily life. Solitude provides the space for these to rise to the surface. You begin to uncover parts of yourself that have been hidden, waiting for the right moment to be seen. But self-discovery is not always a pleasant experience. Sometimes, when you are alone, you will confront parts of yourself that you have been avoiding. Perhaps there are fears, insecurities, or painful memories that come up. But this is not a reason to run away. These are opportunities for healing. By facing them in solitude, you have the chance to understand them, to let go of their hold over you, and to transform them into wisdom. In Buddhism, there is a teaching called the middle way, which suggests that true peace is found not in extremes but in balance. When you are alone, building strength through inner stillness. In this world, we often search for strength outside of ourselves. We look to others, to material things, and even to success for the reassurance that we are strong. But true strength doesn't come from these things. True strength is quiet. It lives within us, in the stillness, waiting to be discovered. When you are alone, many things will come to your mind. Thoughts, emotions, and sometimes even fears. These can feel overwhelming, especially when there is no one around to help you make sense of them. But if you stay still, if you embrace the silence, something magical happens. You begin to understand that the noise is not who you are. It's just passing. And in that quiet space, your true strength is revealed. Think of a tree standing tall in a storm. It doesn't try to fight the wind. It doesn't resist the rain. Instead, it simply stands firm, its roots deep in the earth. It knows that strength is not about being invincible, but about staying grounded and flexible. We, too, must learn to be like the tree. When the storm of life comes, instead of fighting against it, we learn to stand firm in the face of it, rooted in the stillness within. Inner stillness is not about doing nothing. It is about doing everything with full presence. When we are still on the inside, we see the world more clearly. We can observe our thoughts without becoming entangled in them. We can experience our emotions without being overwhelmed. This stillness allows us to respond with wisdom, not reaction. One of the greatest misconceptions about strength is that it requires force. But true strength is gentle. It is the calmness in the face of chaos, the peace in the midst of turmoil. The practice of mindfulness, something so central to Buddhism, is the key to finding this strength. When we practice mindfulness, we cultivate an inner peace that cannot be shaken by the world around us. There will always be moments when life feels heavy, when it feels as though everything is going wrong. But in these moments, if you choose to be still, you will find a wellspring of strength within you. You will realize that you are not as fragile as you think. The challenges are like waves on the ocean, always moving, never permanent. Imagine yourself sitting in a quiet room, away from the distractions of the world. You take a deep breath, and for a moment, the world falls away. In this moment, you are free. There are no expectations, no pressures. Just you, breathing, being. This is the beginning of inner strength. It's not about changing the world around you. It's about changing how you experience it. And that change begins in the stillness of your mind. In Buddhism, the practice of meditation is central to discovering inner strength. When you meditate, you are not trying to escape your thoughts. Instead, you are learning to observe them. By observing them without judgment, you create space between you and your thoughts. This space allows you to respond rather than react. And this is where strength lies. Not in reacting to every thought and emotion, but in choosing how to respond with calmness and clarity. It's easy to feel powerless when you are alone, when you feel disconnected from the world. But being alone is not a weakness, it is an opportunity. It is in those quiet moments that we begin to realize how much power we already hold. The power to choose our thoughts, to choose our actions, and to choose our responses. This is the true meaning of strength. There is a concept in Buddhism called equanimity. It refers to the ability to remain balanced, calm, and centered, no matter what happens in life. This doesn't mean that we don't feel emotions, or that we become indifferent to the world around us. It means that, no matter what happens, we remain rooted in our inner peace. We are like the ocean, which remains calm beneath the waves, unaffected by the surface turbulence. When we are still, we are not just creating space for peace. We are creating space for growth. Inner strength is not something we are born with. It is something we develop over time. Just like a muscle, it grows stronger the more we use it. And every time you choose to remain still in the face of fear, doubt, or anxiety, you strengthen that muscle. You build resilience. You begin to trust that, no matter what happens, you can weather the storm. Strength is not always loud. It doesn't always shout. In fact, it is often the quietest moments that reveal the most about our true power. When you sit alone, you may feel like there is nothing happening. But in that silence, everything is happening. You are healing. You are growing. You are becoming stronger with every passing moment. This is why it's so important to learn to be still, to sit with yourself, and to embrace your own company. When you are alone, you have the chance to reconnect with your true self. You have the opportunity to let go of the distractions and labels that the world places on you. In that stillness, you remember who you are beneath all the noise. Strength doesn't come from being constantly active or busy. It comes from being able to sit in silence, to face your thoughts, and to still your mind. It comes from having the courage to look within and to accept everything you find there, without judgment. In that acceptance, you become whole. You become strong. You may wonder, how do you begin this journey of inner stillness? The first step is simple. Breathe. Take a deep breath and just be. When you feel overwhelmed, close your eyes and focus on your breath. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. This simple act can bring you back to the present moment, away from the noise of the world. As you practice being still, you may notice that your mind wanders. That's okay. It's natural. Just gently bring your focus back to your breath. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to remain still, to remain calm. And as you do, you will find that your inner strength grows stronger and stronger, until you are no longer shaken by the storms of life. This inner strength is not something you have to search for outside of yourself. It is already there, deep within you, waiting to be discovered. And the more you practice stillness, the more you will tap into it. It is your birthright, your true nature. It is who you are at your core. So, the next time you feel alone or overwhelmed, don't fight it. Embrace it. Sit in the stillness. Breathe. And remember that within you lies all the strength you need. It may be quiet, but it is powerful, and it will carry you through any storm. Practices for cultivating compassion for yourself. In solitude, we often find ourselves face to face with our own reflection. The quiet allows us to see ourselves, not as others see us, but as we truly are. And in this space, it's easy to be harsh, critical, or judgmental. But true peace, true growth, begins with compassion, especially compassion for ourselves. We often think compassion is something we offer to others, but it is equally important to offer it to ourselves. When you are alone, you might feel a sense of emptiness or sadness. Maybe there are moments of regret or frustration with how things have turned out. These feelings are natural, but how we respond to them makes all the difference. Think about the last time you felt down. Did you speak to yourself kindly, or did you criticize yourself for feeling that way? Compassion is about choosing to treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend in their time of need. Imagine if every time you stumbled or felt weak, you simply said to yourself, "It's okay. You are doing your best." This isn't about ignoring your mistakes or pretending everything is perfect. It's about acknowledging where you are without judgment. When you are alone, you have the opportunity to do just this, to pause and reflect with gentle understanding. No one else may be around, but you are your own companion, and you can choose how you treat yourself. Buddhism teaches us the importance of self-compassion. The Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." This simple yet profound truth is often overlooked. We may give love freely to others, but how often do we give it to ourselves? How often do we accept ourselves in our entirety, flaws and all? To cultivate compassion for yourself, you must first recognize your own worth. This is not about ego or pride. It's about acknowledging your inherent value as a human being, just as you are. The next time you are alone, take a moment to close your eyes and place your hand over your heart. Feel the warmth of your own touch and simply acknowledge that you are enough. You are worthy of love, not because of what you've achieved or how others see you, but because you are here, breathing, living, and learning. One of the most powerful practices for cultivating self-compassion is the practice of mindfulness. When you are mindful, you are present with yourself in the moment. You observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. Instead of becoming lost in self-criticism, you simply notice, "I am feeling anxious," or "I am feeling lonely," and then you allow these feelings to pass. Mindfulness is not about changing your feelings, but about accepting them as they are. When you are mindful, you create space for compassion to arise naturally. For example, let's say you've made a mistake. Instead of dwelling on guilt or shame, mindfulness allows you to say, "This is part of being human. I made a mistake, and I can learn from it." This is a compassionate response, one that acknowledges imperfection without condemnation. In this way, mindfulness helps you treat yourself with the same kindness you would show someone else who is struggling. Another powerful tool for cultivating compassion is loving-kindness meditation, or metta in Buddhism. This practice involves sending love and well wishes to yourself and others. Start by sitting quietly and taking a few deep breaths. Then, silently repeat phrases like, "May I be happy," "May I be healthy," "May I live with ease." As you repeat these phrases, imagine sending warmth and love to yourself. You are not just wishing these things for yourself. You are affirming your right to experience them. Once you've cultivated self-compassion, you can extend that same kindness to others. The beautiful thing about compassion is that it doesn't diminish when shared, it grows. When you are kind to yourself, you naturally become more understanding and gentle toward others. Compassion is like a seed. When you nurture it within yourself, it blossoms outward, creating a ripple effect in the world. But self-compassion isn't always easy. In our busy world, we are often taught to be hard on ourselves, to push through discomfort, and to never show weakness. Society may tell us that being kind to ourselves is indulgent or weak. But in truth, the more compassionate you are with yourself, the stronger and more resilient you become. Compassion gives you the strength to face life's challenges with grace and patience. In moments of solitude, you have the opportunity to practice self-compassion without the distractions of the outside world. You don't need anyone else's approval or validation. You are enough just as you are. In the quiet, you can gently remind yourself that it's okay to rest, to heal, and to grow. You don't have to do it all at once. One small act of kindness to yourself today can lay the foundation for a lifetime of self-compassion. When you treat yourself with compassion, you are not only nurturing your own well-being, but you are also creating space for transformation. Compassion opens your heart, allowing you to accept your flaws and embrace your humanity. And as you do, you begin to see that being alone is not a curse, but a gift, an opportunity to reconnect with yourself, to heal, and to grow. Self-compassion also helps you break free from the cycle of comparison. When you are alone, there is no one else to compare yourself to. You are simply you. And in that moment, you can celebrate your uniqueness. You don't have to measure yourself against anyone else's achievements or standards. Your worth is inherent, and self-compassion helps you recognize that. Sometimes, being alone can trigger feelings of inadequacy, as though you are not enough. But these thoughts are not the truth. The truth is that you are worthy of love, compassion, and respect, regardless of your circumstances. And when you embrace this truth, you can begin to live from a place of inner peace. When we stop judging ourselves, we allow ourselves to heal. Compassion creates space for the heart to soften, for the mind to quiet, and for the spirit to flourish. So, the next time you find yourself alone, remember, you are enough. You deserve compassion just as much as anyone else. Treat yourself with kindness and let the stillness become a place of peace and growth. By cultivating compassion for yourself, you not only enrich your own life, but also become a beacon of light for others. When you treat yourself with love and care, you model that same behavior for those around you. You become a source of strength and inspiration, and your compassion ripples out into the world, creating a wave of kindness that touches everyone you encounter. The journey to self-compassion is ongoing. It's not something that happens overnight, but with each step, you move closer to a deeper understanding of yourself. And as you grow in compassion, you will find that being alone is no longer a burden, but a blessing, a chance to be with the most important person in your life, yourself. Overcoming fear of being alone. In this quiet moment, as you sit by yourself, have you noticed the small, hidden fear that creeps into your mind? It's subtle, like a shadow that seems to follow you wherever you go. You may not always recognize it, but it's there, whispering that being alone is something to be afraid of. But is it true? Is being alone really something to fear? Or is it simply a feeling that arises because we've been taught to believe we need others to feel complete? The fear of solitude is one of the most common fears, and it often comes from a misunderstanding of what it truly means to be alone. You see, when we are alone, our minds tend to fill the space with thoughts, worries, and doubts. We may feel anxious because we are not distracted by the constant noise of others. But this fear is not of being alone. It's the fear of facing our own mind, our own thoughts, and our own emotions. In Buddhism, we are taught that this fear is not something to avoid but something to confront with compassion and awareness. When you sit alone, your mind may become restless, filled with countless thoughts and worries. But if you remain present, without judgment, you will begin to notice something remarkable. These thoughts, these fears, are not permanent. They are like clouds passing through the sky. The first step in overcoming the fear of being alone is understanding that this fear is not your true nature. Your true nature is calm, clear, and vast, like the sky. The fear is just a temporary visitor, a passing cloud. It does not define you. It is simply a reflection of your attachments and your desire for external validation. When you sit quietly with yourself, you may begin to notice how much you've relied on the presence of others to define who you are. Perhaps you've sought approval, comfort, or company to feel worthy or safe. But in truth, you do not need anything outside of yourself to feel complete. You are already whole. Let go of the belief that you need someone else to fill the space in your life. Instead, recognize that when you are alone, you are in the perfect position to reconnect with yourself, to rediscover the peace and clarity that already resides within you. Being alone is not an absence. It is a presence that can be filled with joy, creativity, and self-love. Now, let us take a moment to observe this fear without judgment. When the fear arises, don't try to push it away. Simply notice it. Where does it come from? What thoughts accompany it? Is it tied to a past experience or a future worry? By observing these feelings with curiosity, we begin to loosen their grip on us. Imagine you are sitting by a calm river. The fear that rises within you is like a stone that you can throw into the river. Watch it sink beneath the surface and disappear. The more you practice this, the less power the fear will have over you. Fear arises when we resist what is. We fear the unknown. We fear the discomfort of being alone, and we fear facing ourselves. But if you stop resisting, if you stop trying to run from these feelings, you will begin to notice a beautiful truth. The fear dissolves. In Buddhism, we speak of embracing the present moment. Fear often comes from dwelling in the past or worrying about the future. But when you focus on the here and now, when you truly experience the present, you begin to realize that there is nothing to fear. The more you practice being present with yourself, the more you will discover that being alone is not an enemy, but a teacher. In these moments of solitude, you can reconnect with your breath, with your body, with your spirit. So, what can we do when fear of being alone arises? The first step is to breathe. Take a deep breath and let it fill your body. Feel the air entering your lungs, filling you with life. This simple act of breathing brings you back to the present moment, where fear cannot survive. Next, we can practice loving kindness. This is a Buddhist practice of sending love and compassion to ourselves and to others. When you are alone, send love to yourself. Embrace yourself with kindness and care. Recognize that you are worthy of love and peace, just as you are, without needing anything external to validate you. When fear arises, also ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen? Often, we fear things that have not yet occurred, things that exist only in our minds. When we bring our awareness to the present, we realize that there is no actual danger. There is only the fear itself, and it is not real. The fear of being alone often comes from a sense of insecurity or a belief that we are not enough. But in truth, you are more than enough. You are the sky, vast and infinite, and your true nature is not defined by others, by circumstances, or by the past. This fear also arises because we feel disconnected from others, but the truth is, we are never truly separate. We are all interconnected, part of the same vast universe. Even in moments of solitude, you are connected to the world around you. If you sit quietly and listen, you will hear the whispers of nature, the rustle of leaves, the sound of your breath, and the beating of your heart. These are the voices of life, reminding you that you are never truly alone. The world is with you, even in silence. As you continue to embrace solitude, you will notice that the fear lessens. The more you practice being with yourself, the more comfortable you become with your own presence. Solitude is no longer something to fear, but something to cherish. It is important to understand that fear does not define you. You are not the fear. You are the awareness that notices the fear. You are the stillness beneath the storm of thoughts and emotions. The practice of mindfulness is essential in overcoming this fear. When you are alone, observe your thoughts with curiosity, without judgment. Notice the fear when it arises, but do not react to it. Let it come and go, like clouds passing through the sky. With time, you will discover that you are capable of sitting with your fear, embracing it with compassion, and watching it fade away. As the Buddha said, what you think, you become. When you think of yourself as a fearful being, fear will persist. But when you see yourself as whole and complete, fear will dissolve. Embrace the stillness, embrace the silence, and embrace the aloneness. You are safe. You are whole. And in this moment, you are free, turning solitude into a source of wisdom. When the world is quiet, the mind has a chance to speak. It is in the moments of stillness that wisdom quietly steps forward, waiting for you to listen. But how often do we rush past these moments, filling them with distractions, noise, or endless thoughts. Solitude is not just a space between people. It is a space between thoughts, where clarity can arise. Think of it as a blank canvas. When there are no distractions, no rush, no external expectations, your mind is free to paint its own picture, filled with the colors of your inner wisdom. Many people are afraid of being alone, not because they dislike themselves, but because they fear what they will find when they are alone with their thoughts. But the truth is, the mind, when allowed the space to simply be, is not chaotic. It is peaceful, calm, and filled with knowledge waiting to be discovered. You see, when we are constantly surrounded by noise, we cannot hear the whispers of the wisdom that is always present within us. But in solitude, when the noise fades, the deeper layers of your being have room to surface. It is like sitting in a garden, quiet, waiting for the flowers to bloom. Buddhism teaches that wisdom is not found in external sources alone, but within ourselves. The journey to discovering this wisdom begins by turning inward. When you are alone, you are given the space to meet yourself, to be present with your fears, your desires, your pain, and your joy. These are not obstacles to avoid. They are the seeds of wisdom. But wisdom doesn't always come in grand, dramatic moments. Often, it comes like a gentle breeze, softly touching your awareness. It's the quiet understanding that arises when you no longer resist the present moment. It's the sudden realization that you are not separate from the world, but deeply connected to it. There is a story in Buddhism about a wise monk who sat in meditation for many years, seeking enlightenment. One day, a curious visitor asked him, "Master, where is the wisdom you seek?" The monk smiled and replied, "It is not something to be sought. It is something to be uncovered." The wisdom the monk spoke of was already within him, but it was only in his stillness, in his solitude, that it became clear. This is the power of solitude. It is not an empty space. It is a fertile ground where wisdom can grow. But to uncover this wisdom, we must first learn to listen. In the noise of everyday life, it is easy to overlook the small moments of clarity. But in solitude, these moments stand out. They become the guiding lights on your path. When you are alone, you have the opportunity to pause, to reflect, and to question. You don't need to answer everything right away. In fact, sometimes the most profound insights come when you simply allow the questions to linger. The answers will come, not in a rush, but in their own time. To turn solitude into a source of wisdom, you must first be willing to sit with your thoughts, without judgment. Many of us fear what we might find when we look within. But wisdom does not require you to be perfect. It asks only that you be present with yourself, just as you are. You may discover that the answers you seek were always within you. But like a flower growing in the dark, they need space to bloom. Solitude provides that space. It gives you the time to connect with your deeper self, to reflect on your life, your choices, and your purpose. Each moment of aloneness becomes an opportunity to learn something new. Every feeling you experience, every thought you have, is a chance to gather insight. The key is to stop running from your own mind and start embracing it. When you do, you will begin to see that every moment, no matter how small, carries a lesson. In solitude, you will learn to trust yourself. You will realize that you are capable of finding the answers you seek. Wisdom is not something you need to search for. It is something you must allow to arise naturally. Just like the ocean, which remains calm even beneath the surface, your mind holds an infinite depth of wisdom. But it is only when you are willing to sit in silence, to observe without judgment, that this wisdom can rise to the surface. The more you practice this, the more you will discover that solitude is not just a space of aloneness. It is a space of infinite potential. When you learn to be still, to listen to the quiet within, you will begin to hear the wisdom that has always been there. You will see the world with clearer eyes, and the answers to your questions will come effortlessly. This is the gift of solitude. It helps you uncover the wisdom that was always present, waiting for you to notice. In the Buddhist tradition, this practice is called mindful listening. It is the act of being fully present in each moment, without attachment to what is happening. You simply listen, observe, and allow wisdom to arise. This is the essence of meditation, a practice that can be done anywhere, at any time, but is especially powerful when you are alone. So, the next time you find yourself alone, instead of rushing to fill the silence with distractions, take a moment to pause. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and simply listen. You may be surprised at the wisdom that emerges when you stop trying to find it and allow it to come to you. Solitude is a gift. It is a chance to uncover the wisdom that lies within you, waiting to be discovered. Embrace it, and you will find that every moment of aloneness becomes an opportunity for growth, understanding, and peace. Remember, the wisdom you seek is not outside of you. It is within, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. And that moment may come in the stillness, in the quiet space where you are fully present with yourself. Conclusion: living alone but not lonely. As we reach the final part of this journey, let's reflect for a moment on what we've learned. From the beginning, when we were unsure of how to handle loneliness, to now, where we understand that solitude is not an enemy but a friend, the journey has been transformative. But before we dive into the final thoughts, let's ask ourselves, do you still fear being alone? Does the silence of your own company still feel like an uncomfortable stranger? Or have you come to realize, as we have, that solitude is not the absence of others, but the presence of your true self? Imagine a vast sky. When there are no clouds, it is clear, endless, peaceful. But when the clouds come, the sky changes. The clouds move, and they are temporary. But the sky remains unchanged. You, too, are like the sky. Your thoughts, your emotions, they come and go. They are like the clouds. But your essence, the one that watches, the one that feels, you are always there, unchanged, unaffected by the passing storms of life. This is the essence of Buddhism. To understand that, just like the sky, we are ever present. We are not defined by the temporary circumstances of our lives. Whether surrounded by others or alone, we remain. You are not alone in your aloneness. The world is full of people walking the same path of solitude, and yet we are all connected by something deeper. The wisdom shared in this video is not just mine. It is a collective wisdom that has been passed down through generations. It is a wisdom that says, you are whole, you are complete, just as you are, no matter where you are. Now, let's turn our attention inward. What does it feel like to be at peace with yourself? What does it feel like to sit in the stillness and not feel that you need to escape? When we are at peace with ourselves, we realize that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. Instead, it means having the space to be the truest version of who we are. Solitude teaches us that everything we seek in others, love, validation, understanding, is already within us. It's just waiting to be uncovered. You don't need the approval of others to feel worthy. You don't need the company of others to feel whole. You already have everything you need inside of you. Buddhism encourages us to look within, to find the stillness beneath the noise, the calm beneath the chaos. When you sit alone, you are given a gift, the chance to rediscover who you are beyond the labels, beyond the roles you play in society. You are not your job, not your relationships, not your possessions. You are simply you. And when you connect with this truth, you find peace. But how do we live this out in our daily lives? How do we carry this sense of peace with us, even when we are surrounded by the noise of the world? The answer lies in mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness, we can turn every moment into an opportunity to return to ourselves. Whether we are alone or with others, whether we are working, eating, or simply breathing, we can choose to be present. Mindfulness is the key to living a life that is full, even in solitude. When we are mindful, we are not just going through the motions. We are experiencing each moment fully, as it is. We are aware of our thoughts, aware of our feelings, and aware of the present moment. This awareness brings us peace, because we are no longer lost in the past or anxious about the future. We are simply here, now. And as you continue on your path, remember this: you are never truly alone. The moment you embrace solitude, you begin to see the world differently. You see the interconnectedness of all things. You see that your own journey is a part of something much larger, much greater. You are not separate from the world. You are a part of it. Your solitude, your aloneness, becomes a sacred space. It is a place where you can find yourself, heal, and grow. It is a place where you can rediscover your purpose and your peace. And when you leave that space, you carry that peace with you, sharing it with the world. So, when you find yourself alone, instead of feeling abandoned or isolated, remember that you are in a place of power. You are in a place of transformation. You are in a place where you can return to the essence of who you truly are. And this is a gift. If you found value in these teachings, and if they've helped you to see solitude in a new light, I ask you to consider subscribing to Wisdom Woven. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of viewers subscribe. If you've benefited from this journey, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to share this wisdom with more people around the world. In closing, remember, you are not your loneliness. You are not the absence of others. You are a whole, complete being. And solitude is not something to fear, but something to embrace. In this stillness, you will find peace. You will find wisdom. You will find yourself. May your path be filled with clarity, love, and the peace that comes from knowing that you are enough, just as you are. And no matter where life takes you, remember this: you are never truly alone. You are always connected to something greater, something eternal. And that, dear friend, is the greatest peace of all.